Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics GameDay Squad live show as we preview the upcoming round, which is round 10. And we're a couple of days away. We're about 24 hours away from the first game of round 10 getting underway up in the Northern Territory between Gold Coast and Hawthorn. I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. And joining me, as always, is my co-host of the Game Day shows, and you can find him at Tommy GDS on Twitter as well. My co-host, Tom, mate. How are you?
Yeah, we're just talking. Bit of a rough week. Anyone that knows me knows I love my Boston Celtics. So just dealing with the pain of that. My Swannies are coming off a loss to Essendon. So, this week is probably one to forget in terms of the sporting world. But, my fantasy squad's playing a little better now. So that's good. That's a positive. And I'm looking for round 10 to be the best one yet. So, yeah, we're all footy now. NBA is over, mate. And it's time to lock in.
He's got the NFL jersey on as well for those watching along. He's got the Patriots. So he's just like, no Boston Celtics, no Sydney Swans. He's going for the Patriots. So, but yeah, no, that's we were just chatting about it. Obviously, this game day, so we won't touch on it too much. But yeah, I was just saying to you off camera, I was like, well, with an Achilles injury like this so late in the season, it means that not only is Tatum going to miss the rest of the playoffs, obviously you think that the Knicks are probably going to get it, and then even most of next year as well. So obviously, these Achilles injuries are almost worse than ACLs in a way because they take a full 12 months to recover from, and then you sort of, it's a while after that before they get right back to their peak sort of performance. Whereas ACL, again, very similar, but they can return in like 10 months or whatever. So yeah, sucks for the Celtics fans. Obviously, I know Mitch from the Ball Boys, Liam obviously from Free Kick as well, both Celtics fans. So I know a fair few of you are Celtics fans. So my condolences there, and hopefully you can get back soon. But yeah, we got some footy that we're sort of approaching for us for round 10. So Tom, give us a rundown quickly before we get stuck in it, how you went last week in terms of like some of your rankings across some of the comps and where you sort of situate in terms of overall rank.
Can do. Starter didn't do too hot last round. Came 134th, had 2,520 for points. When just starter's been elite so far. People are putting up some massive numbers. Classic though, 25th. 2,794. I did drop Dunkley for Toronto or 1-for-1 last minute, and that sort of cost me. I probably would have been where you are. I think it's about 18 points. So I would have been right next to the Bales nails there, mate. So great round from you in the classic competition there. But for the season, no. What are we going? We're going 35th. So I would love for that to climb, and I can see you there at 14th. So you're smashing it, mate.
Yeah, we're going along quite nicely. At least there is a format of AFL Fantasy that I'm actually going well in, because people know my AFL Fantasy team is not going very well. My Game Day squad is, so we'll be positive for that one. But yeah, 74th for starter last week, so not too bad there. Classic obviously had the better week. They're ranked 12th for the week. Matt Kennedy.
Yep.
In that squad where I don't have a bronze of him is certainly helping there, and Challenger 23rd for the week. So they're the main three I sort of take sort of pretty seriously and think I've got a good squad. Even Champion though last week, so that was Challenger. I was trying to check Champion.
I don't know about you, Bales, but I thought 64. I got pretty lucky last round. I missed a lot of the big scores. Like I missed Clark, I missed Ryan, I didn't have Rosie. I had a lot of players that went really, really well that I faded and didn't start, and I still seem to have a pretty good round. So if I can sort of get this all going and get everything to collide at once and do well, then we're on. Ready.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, there's a few poor scores as well that a few people had. But in terms of, season, starter currently 9th. So really happy with how that's going. Not too far off the top 5 as well. 14th in Classic. So definitely in the hunt for potentially a couple of a prize card there, obviously depending which one I finish higher in, and then Challenger with 21st. So if we can finish top 20 in 3 comps, we'll be pretty happy with that, and 49th in Champion. So a fair bit away from those. Let's get stuck into the games coming up this round. So we got a few people with some question marks. So some questions on some players, which there's a popular player that's a question mark on the Friday, which we will get into. So VB and Edge, I can see questions there. We'll get to those in a second. But Thursday night is the first game that we'll touch on, Gold Coast and Hawthorn. So the teams for those ones, Gold Coast have brought in Ned Moyle along with David Swallow, but Jared Witts is still playing. So they've gone for the 2 ruck set up there, which is very interesting. Jake Rogers and Will Graham are both out injured. I don't know if you saw that, Tom, at the end. Will Graham really hurt his shoulder in a big contest and grabbed his shoulder, but then he saw the ball and got a little tap on that actually helped Gold Coast. I don't know if they kicked the goal or not, but it was a play late in the game. So he had a busted shoulder, but he still went, I'm going to try and tap the ball around. So he's out injured, unfortunately, because of that. But yeah, certainly Gold Coast and in the four walls, be very happy with him. Hawthorn, a few changes here. So a few restings. So Tom Barras, Ned Reeves, Jack Scrimshaw, Cal Shadir, and Cam McKenzie come into the side. Jarman Impey is out, along with Jack Gunston, Luke Bruce, Lloyd Meek, and Henry Huswaite. So a few guys. So Bruce is injured there. Impey out for personal reasons, and Gunston and Meek have been managed with Huswaite being dropped there. So a few changes for this one. Is there anyone that you're keen on or not so keen on for this game? Because it's a bit of a different one, obviously up in Darwin, so maybe some slippery conditions.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go not so keen on, and this is a player that, again, very highly rated, at least for me in the preseason. It's going to be Moore at the forward line. Dylan Moore just hasn't had the campaign that we expected him to have, and until the foreseeable future, until I start seeing, some signs of life or growth in terms of his role, like we sort of thought he maybe would go into the midfield with a couple numbers out with Day and some ball winners, but it just hasn't been the case. He's been very underwhelming. He only had 81 fantasy points last week, 47 the week before. And the Suns are known to be a bit of a harder matchup for those forwards and a couple of mids. So, the matchup's not great for him. And also his form is just not what we expected. So I'm going to pass now. I'm going to fade on a big name player like Dylan Moore until I have a little more confidence that I can roll him out and, he can be some of the better forwards in the comp.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, this isn't the sort of matchup if we want Dylan Moore for. If this is the MCG, I think it'd be different. But the fact that it is in Darwin as well with these conditions is something that I'm not too keen on. And fair enough, I'm also going to go with not so keen on. So I think it's the first time I believe we've done a preview show we've been not so keen on both in the same game. So, but Noah Anderson is someone I'm not keen on this game. So Hawthorn is already a very tough matchup for mids. But the fact, again, it's at Darwin. And he's been really quiet. So he had a really strong start to the season, did Noah Anderson. So he started with 133, 135, 107, 111, and 131. So those first few games for Noah Anderson were really strong. Like there's 3 130s there in his first 5 games. But his 3 games since then, 88, 97, and 93. And a big part of that is his tackle numbers they've been consistent, but they have actually slowly dropped. So he started off with 5, then ran 3, 4, 5, had 4. Ran 6 and 7, had 3, and then last 2 weeks he's had 1 tackle in each of those weeks. And his touches, he's handballing a lot more compared to he was actually handballing a fair bit, but he was getting like high 30s and mid 30s in terms of disposals, whereas lately it's been like high 20s, mid 20s in a few of those. So not getting as much of the ball. And Gold Coast, we have flagged this over the last 12 to 18 months with Damien Hardwick up there. Damien Hardwick's never really been a coach that's had a game style that's been conducive to good fantasy scoring. And I think we both thought Noah Anderson with the start he had thought, oh, here we go. Noah Anderson, captain of the club, Gold Coast, take that step up. Maybe he's going to improve on what he's done. But it seems like he's really just the same Noah Anderson we've come to expect, where he'll have a month patch where he'll average 130 in GameDay Squad, but then he'll have a month patch where he averages 95. So it's disappointing, and hopefully he can turn it around. But this is not the game that I think it'll be the start of a turnaround for him. So I'm fading Noah Anderson in this one. But moving on to Friday, Sydney and Carlton at the SCG. So you're looking forward to this one with Sydney starting favourites, Tom. But we do have some pretty big news that got dropped by Mitch Cleary today about TDK, who's popular across every format, including GameDay Squad, with being able to fit 2 rucks into your squad. With the talk being, I'll just get the tweet up actually that Mitch Cleary tweeting that before. So Mitch Cleary tweeted and said, Carlton Ruckman's Tom de Koning is in doubt to face Sydney on Friday night due to a larynx injury he sustained this week. The Blues will have their final run in Melbourne tomorrow morning before flying north. So there'll be a lot of people at the airport seeing if TDK's is named, and obviously make sure you guys continue to check like the subs and everything like that and late changes. So make sure you go and follow at AFL Subs on Twitter. They post all of the late changes and subs on that page. And obviously, good friend of the show, Jordox, and Eloise as well, both doing really good work over there. So make sure you go and follow that account. But yeah, TDK, is potentially someone that might not be playing. So that's a big watch on team selection tomorrow night and then on the Friday.
Sure.
But because VB says TDK out, Eats Edge said Bales TDK, we can't have nice things. And VB saying potentially with a fractured larynx. So we'll find out. But yes, TDK, I think there are better options already this week anyway in the ruck, and we'll get to a few of those, I'm sure. But I think this week I probably wouldn't play TDK now knowing that. But I think there are better options before. But anyway, Sydney Carlton, Tom, who are you keen on or not so keen on from this game?
Let me start with the scenario where TDK is out. I wouldn't be rushing to get Brodie Grundy into your squad and just assume that with him being out and injured, it's going to open the door for Grundy to go nuts, because we've seen over 9 rounds this season, Grundy's only cracked the ton mark in 4 of those rounds. And quite honestly, they're very low tons. And for a rucks this year, especially with the likes of Cherry, Marshall, and Gawn, how they've been playing, where they can put up 150 quite easily. There's plenty of other better options. So don't react or overreact to that news. And I wouldn't be putting Grundy in unless you wanted to play him as a pod and sort of do that. But look, there's plenty of really good rucks, and I just would stay away.
I probably wouldn't either. I'd like Pitno will come in for TDK if he misses, and that's not, I wouldn't say, an easy matchup. So, I probably wouldn't be looking for that. But, who are you keen on, not so keen on from this game?
Not so keen on, and I'm going to talk about Sammy Walsh. He had a stretch of this season where, similar to Noah, I thought, okay, here we go. Sam Walsh is back. He had 155 and 148 in back-to-back rounds. And I was like, okay, that's just fantastic. But over the next 4 rounds, we've seen 93, 108, 88, and 93 again. So he's got over the ton once in those 4 rounds, and he's gone 80 as well. Not very good signs, unfortunately, for Big Sammy Walsh. I know he's playing a bit of a different role. I do think there's an adjustment there with him and trying to work out how he's going to impact the ball. But he's very inconsistent, and there is a world where he could go nuts. But if he's going to start on sort of the half forward, like, we could see him being or getting a bit of attention throughout the game. So I don't think the upside's there. He's a superstar in his own right, but he just doesn't look quite right for this year. So I'm going to be fading him in any of my squads for the round.
Yeah, I would agree with that one. And I'm also going to follow you and go with a not so keen on again. And I'm going to go for Matt Roberts. So I don't think it's got anything to do with about Matt Roberts, because I think Matt Roberts has been, again, we flagged him in the preseason about being someone that could take his game to that next level and become one of those premium defenders, and he certainly has. He's averaging 111.6 for the season, and he's been really consistent, right? So he's only had the 1 game below 100, 2 games below 100, being a 99 and a 94 in GameDay Squad, but really consistent, right? So if you want someone to rely on for 110, 115 points, he's been a pretty good guy to sort of rely on. But the matchup this week against Carlton are the toughest matchup for defenders to score against. They are the number 1 hardest, looking here at the Moreira's Magic website, only conceding 85 points a game, and Hawthorn and Port Adelaide, Brisbane and Giants aren't too far behind. So Carlton are the toughest. And just in saying that, I think he'll be okay this week. I think, again, he'll score a 90, 95, 100 maybe. He might go more, right? There's a chance he does put up a good score because he does have those kick-ins. I just think GameDay Squad, we do, obviously, because you can change your whole squad week to week, we do target matchups and then sort of ceilings.
Yep.
I don't think the ceiling is necessarily going to be there this week. So that's why I'm fading him this week. But not to say that I don't think he'll go well. I think he'll be solid still. But I think Carlton and Sydney are 2 of the teams that aren't as fantasy relevant and at the moment. And to take sort of 2 players in this game, you obviously took, now I've had a mental blank, the player, Sam Walsh. And I agree with that. Yeah. And I would have said Walsh as well. But we're saying that, I think Roberts there. But I partly hope he goes well because I've got him in my AFL Fantasy team. So there's sort of that. I've got him in Fantasy, but I won't put him in GameDay Squad. So, but yeah, cool.
Nice.
We'll move over to the Saturday games. And we're going to be starting off, massive game this one. Massive game. And you could say, no, I think it is. No, sorry. The first game on the Thursday is probably the game of the round. But this is very, very close to the game of the round. Collingwood and Adelaide at the MCG. This game has been very, very close in previous history. And yeah, I don't know if you know this, Tom, but Collingwood have won the last 9 against the Crows. So safe to say, I'm getting impatient as a Crows fan. I want us to finally beat Collingwood, but I guess we'll see if the Crows can get it done. But who are you keen on or not so keen on in this game?
Wow, I've been a real negative Nancy today, as they would say. I'm going to go not so keen on again.
Again, 3
I'm going to go with a ruck. And we're talking about rucks, and there's some really good options. And this guy is having fantastic year. But there's one matchup in particular that I don't like starting a ruck, and it's against your Crows, mate. We're going to talk about Darcy Cameron. He actually has the second highest average out of rucks in GameDay Squad for the season, sitting at 123 fantasy points. So looking at that, you know, he's got to be in the conversation most weeks. But this one in particular, as mentioned, against the Crows, one thing Riley can do very well is neutralise a very good ruckman. And he's actually the best in the competition at doing it as per the fantasy numbers for the season, at least so far. So Darcy Cameron is an elite option for your squads in most rounds at the ruck position. But coming up against one of the toughest matchups, I'm just going to be fading him personally, and I'm going to be hoping that others start him and that Riley does a bit of a job on him for the week, and then I can get the one up on some other coaches. So, yeah, not to be too negative, but I feel like these decisions are really important and can sort of make and break your round. And this is another one where I'm going to be fading, not starting, and doing it with some confidence, because I'll get into some of my other options later.
Yep, exactly. I'm going to break the trend because every player so far we've said that we're not so keen on. So I'm going to talk a player that I'm keen on, and people are going to say, here he is again, Jordan Dawson. Right, I'm very keen on him in this game. There is this thing with players, and Tom, you've probably noticed this with players in the past, right? A week that they get tagged and they get no space, the following week when they have all this free room to run, they just get more of the ball. It sort of happens. It's sort of not like a conscious effort to get someone the ball, but they find space. They'll call for that extra +7 in GameDay Squad, so +6 for those playing along at home for the other fantasy formats. But like they'll get more of the ball, and I think Jordan Dawson is on track for this week. So at the MCG, a ground that he has had some pretty big scores on against Collingwood as well. So just to sort of run through his last 3 games against Collingwood. And this is a rough estimate for GameDay Squad. I don't know the exact scores here, but I'm going to get pretty close to it. So last year at the MCG against Collingwood, Jordan Dawson had 133 points or somewhere in that vicinity. Obviously, that's not taken in because obviously frees against are only -2 compared to -3 in other formats and that sort of thing. But 133 last year against them. Year before, though, was the belter of a game. He scored, 199 GameDay Squad points with 35 touches, 9 marks, 12 tackles. And even the year before, earlier that year at home, he was a top scoring player again in that game where he had 133 GameDay Squad points again. So he's gone over 130 in each of his last 3 games against Collingwood. And obviously a couple of those have been at the MCG. So I think Collingwood have been a little bit harder for mids to score against this year compared to what we have seen in the past. So they are currently, I think they're in like the bottom. Oh, no, they're mid-range, neutral matchup. But I just think Dawson, tagged last week, big bounce-back game coming up here, and I'm expecting him to go pretty well there. So Jordan Dawson, for me, I'm pretty keen on him in this one.
Does it concern you then with Dacos, that he got tagged last round, and now he's coming up against your boys?
Yeah,
so the same rules apply?
Dacos is interesting. I think that Nix has talked about he's going to be tempted to tag Dacos. I look at the Crows and go, who's going to do the job? People talk about Barry and Peatling. Peatling might do that, but I don't know if he's really going to be able to go with Dacos. The one I'd be watching, though, is Alex Neil-Bullen. So he did the job last year at Melbourne against Dacos and did a pretty good job as well. Does he go to Dacos this week? That's the big question there. So I think Dacos will be fine. I don't think Crows are going to tag him because Crows have always been about system and team, and they don't really have anyone to nullify. But maybe they go, we've got close to Collingwood so many times. Do we tag Dacos to make sure we get over the line? So going to be interesting to see what happens there. And we'll go through if we got Dacos in our squads or not. But yeah, something to watch with Nick Dacos there for sure. Moving over to the next game, which is Port Adelaide and Geelong at Adelaide Oval. So who are you keen on or not so keen on in this game?
Mate, I'm just going to do it. I know it's the obvious one, but this guy I took a prize card for multiple years ago in Game Day Squad. I haven't been able to start him until this season. He's coming off a massive injury, and he's in the best form of his life, you could say. In terms of all the players in Game Day Squad, he has the highest average score, and it's by 6 points to second place. I'm talking about none other than Bailey Smith. He's a forward this year. And of course, in Game Day Squad, we don't change positions. So for the entire year, he'll be a forward. Next year, presumably, he's going to become a midfielder unless he has a role change over the next month. But I cannot see with how good he's playing. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
142. So
what did you score last week for the listeners there that are playing along at home?
Yeah, absolutely. He scored 172 points. What if I told you over the past 3 rounds, his worst performance has been 144 points? That is just nuts. He is having one of the seasons that just is breaking the logic of fantasy, honestly. Like, this is just unbelievable. We are witnessing greatness in terms of fantasy. It's how well he's playing.
Just add what you're saying. He's had one score below 130 all season in Game Day Squad. His scores for the season: 147, 133, 149, 131, 105, 155, 144, 172. That 105 as well was against the Crows at Adelaide Oval, and that was only because he just didn't get any tackles and not a huge amount of marks. But this guy I think he's a lineup lock squad lock every week.
Yeah. So look, we won't continue to harp on about it too much, but my goodness, he is the best, one of the best players in the comp, and he's proven it this year. That Geelong midfield is just real fantasy friendly. Like, Holmes exploded towards the tail end of last year in that midfield. They've needed someone like a ball dominant mid to come in and take over with Danger coming out, and it's just been the perfect scenario for both worlds, and they've collided, and it's produced one of the best seasons I've seen to date. And hopefully, probably doesn't maintain 142, but if you can get anywhere close, that'll be the highest average we've ever seen on the platform. So, wow.
Yeah, he's going along very nicely. I hope he can, because he did this a few years ago at the Dogs and then quieted down. I think then he headbutted Zach Tui and then got suspended, and then obviously that was the rest of the year. So he was started well, but then it went off the rails. I think though Geelong is I think that just Geelong as a club, I think they're different. Like, I think this is going to continue. Maybe not the 142 level, but I'd be pretty surprised in Game Day Squad if he had an average under 130 by the end of the season, which is still a fantastic season. So he is a squad lock every week. But another guy that's become a squad lock. So it's funny how we went on a run of players that we weren't so keen on. Now we're going on a run of players we are keen on.
That's good. I like to be positive. So thank you.
Yeah. And this guy, shout out to obviously a good friend Cal, obviously one of the creators of Game Day Squad, but one of his boys, the reigning showdown medalist, Connor Rosie, is who I'm pretty keen on in this game. So he's obviously moved to half back. So if you have been living under a rock and haven't seen any Port games over the last month, Connor Rosie's not playing midfield anymore. He's playing off half back, and he's listed as a mid in Game Day Squad, but his scoring has still been very, very good while he's been in defence. So he's 4 games being in defence: 128, 133, 107, and 150. So that 107 was against the Dogs at Ballarat, and they got belted. So bad game by Port, bad ground to score at, and he just didn't have the marks. This, like the other games, he's getting it done. He's got the high ceiling. He has so many kicks. Kane Farrell is now out for 4 to 6 weeks with knee injury. That will mean, I would imagine, some more kick-ins for Connor Rosie, who's been getting some kick-ins. I know he had a bit of a bad one on the weekend, but those added kick-ins as well is just another beautiful thing. So I think that he's going to be someone that we're going to put into our midfield for the rest of the season. Enjoy it, because next season's going to be even better, because at this stage he'll be a defender in Game Day Squad next season, which will be really nice. So Connor Rosie, is someone I'm very, very keen on. And Geelong as well are I believe they're the 7th best matchup for defenders at the moment as well, which is which is okay, which is good. So, and being at home. Moving over to the, funny enough, I was going to say Saturday night game, but for some reason we have 2 games at 4:15. That doesn't make much sense. Good games. And both pretty solid. So GWS and Fremantle at NG Stadium. So also good for Giants. They've played at so many home away games this year. It's ridiculous. Like, the fantasy podcast is different, but in Western Sydney, please stop doing this Easter show at NG Stadium. Take the Easter show somewhere else. NG Stadium is a football ground, not an Easter ground to sort of stuff the Giants up because they got to play at away grounds. Manuka Oval isn't a home ground for the Giants. I know they win there, and I know it's in Canberra and it's close, but they still need to get on a plane and fly. And I don't agree with a lot of things Kane Corn says, but I agree with him saying this. Manuka's not a home ground for the Giants. They play away all the time. Get them at NG Stadium and be like every other team where they have 12 games. Could you imagine Brisbane playing at a different ground other than the Gabba because they have an Easter show? Could you imagine Adelaide and Port Adelaide playing at Amy Stadium now with Adelaide Oval not there because of an Easter show? No, it's the ground. That's where they play. Football comes first. But anyway,
it's true.
We could go on a whole rant about that. We'll continue on the fantasy side of things. So Giants and Freo, who are you keen on or not so keen on for this game?
Let's keep it positive. This is someone in my rankings last round, and on the GameDay Squad show, we do a bit of a preview on the Thursday night after lineups drop. I had him as my rank 3 midfielder. I got that wrong. He actually finished as number 2. His name is Tom Green, and he is in some serious form. I love Tom Green. People don't like starting him because he is a bit of a handball merchant. And in GameDay Squad, where you're allocated 4 points for every kick, that can sometimes be a little damaging. Hence why people like Jordan Dawson play so well because they find or they get the ball on the boot very often. Same with the likes of many other players, right? So they perform just a little better. But Tom Green, irrespective, has been fantastic. And one thing he's doing is he's hitting the scoreboard now. He's had 3 games in a row of him scoring a goal. He's had over about 15 kicks per game in terms of average over these 3. And he's also averaging about... exactly. And he's averaging about 16 handballs per game over this period as well. So you've got 1 goal, 15 and 16 in terms of disposals there between kicks and handballs. He's on fire. 153 fantasy points last round. I think for the season overall, he's had a really, really good year. He's had 2 lower scores, hasn't gone under the ton. Those scores being 101, 103. Everything other else than those scores are 120 plus. So as a pretty good floor, mate, I think Tom Green's back. I reckon 2024 was a little disappointing for a lot of coaches that believed that Tom Green was going to take the next step, leap into sort of that conversation. I think he's slowly getting back there. He's a young gun. He's a fantastic player. And as an asset in GameDay Squad, as we do Dynasty fantasy sports and you keep all your cards, Tom Green's one of the cards at the moment. I'm like, I'm hanging on to this one. He's going to be really, really good. And for the round, I think he's also about to play very well against Freo.
Yeah, great. Yeah, he's someone that's been very good, and I think I don't think they were sleeping. I think they've been just frustrated with when you look at your Dacos and your Dawsons and your Merritts and your Bonts and guys like that have put up multiple 140s, 150s. That was Tom Green's first score over 140 for the season, but maybe that's a sign of things to come. They've got a pretty good run now coming up here as well, and Freo's another. Freo have been a little bit trickier for mids this year. They've been a little bit tougher, but I think Tom Green doesn't really matter too much with him with the matchup. He's going to get his touches and he's going to put up a solid score pretty much most weeks. So I do like him this week. Unfortunately, I'm going to go back to the net. I was going to go. Actually, no. I'll do a quick one. I don't normally like doing 2 players, but I'll do 2 quick plays here. So I'm not so keen on one player. I'm keen on another, but I want to mention both these guys here. So I'm not so keen on Caleb Sarong, who's been very disappointing this year. Giants, Bedford should be back this week. I imagine Bedford goes to him. And I'm also not as keen on Andrew Brayshaw, just with the tougher matchup against GWS. I think there are some Medfields that got good matchups this week. The guy I want to talk about, I just want to mention those 2. The guy I'm keen on, so we'll keep the positive train going. The guy I'm actually keen on this week, and this is looking at teams and how they're selected, right? But if Sean Darcy's not playing this week, I'm keen on Luke Jackson this week. Giants, a pretty good matchup for Rucks. They're in the top handful of matchups there. So looking here, they're the 3rd easiest matchup behind West Coast and Geelong. And we know Luke Jackson, when he's been a solo ruck, has had some pretty good scores. So his first 4 games of the season, I believe, were where he's solo. He went 105, 115, 112, and then an 84. A couple of quieter games since then, and obviously think he missed a couple of weeks there with a hamstring. I think the 84 was when he injured his hamstring. So turned up in every game where he wasn't injured and when Darcy wasn't playing. So if Darcy's not there, I'm keen to start him. Darcy plays. I think that with Richmond playing North Melbourne, I think there's some North forwards. There's a few other forwards this week. Good matchups. Maybe don't. But if he's solo ruck, I'm pretty keen to start with him in my squad this week. So just something to note for people there. Moving on to the only Saturday night game. Normally we got two. We got one because we got the two games, as I said before, at 4:15. But that is the Bulldogs and Essendon. So I don't know if you've noticed, Tom, but there's a bit of a theme going where we don't have many relevant fantasy games at the start of the round. We got a lot of fantasy relevant games at the end of the round. So a lot of relevant players from pretty much this point onwards. So Bulldogs and Essendon, who are you keen on or not so keen on in this game?
I'm keen on a superstar forward. We do have a couple of questions rolling and we might get to after this. So I'll talk about who I'm keen on in this one and then we can talk about some of these questions popping up. But Matthew Kennedy, what a fantastic player he's been going to the Bulldogs, getting time in the midfield. And I just want to read out a couple of his previous performances. Let's go his past 4 rounds in particular. 133, 125, 130, 127. That's good as a midfielder, let alone as a forward. So thank you very much, Matthew Kennedy. At the time where, some forwards maybe haven't lived up to expectations, Kennedy's just come in, slotted straight into that spot, and it's just like, start me every round with some confidence because I am going to deliver. And last round was maybe a little different. He had 3 goals, and we're probably not expecting that very often from Kennedy to score 3 goals.
7 marks and 7 tackles, though, just to make that floor very high. So he just gets it done. And we thought when he went to the Dogs, we thought, oh no, Bevo, already a stacked midfield. How's Kenny going from a team that didn't have many midfielders, had too many midfielders, to now another team's got too many midfielders? But it's all about the system. Dogs score points and Kennedy just getting in on the act. He's been a great pick. And if anyone out there's got a bronze and can spare a bronze for me, then let me know.
Yep.
Tom,
gotcha.
No bronze for you?
Of Kennedy?
Yeah.
I don't think I do. But I've got a bronze and a silver, and that's what I roll out. Yeah, I don't. Sorry, mate.
Bloody hell. Unbelievable. Might have to say that we will sack you from the pod unless you give me one.
I had another silver if you want it. Doesn't help you starter.
Yeah, I couldn't do that to you, mate. But player I'm keen on in this game. So I could say Zach Merritt. I'm pretty keen on him. I think he bounced back after a tag last week. And again, like I said with Dawson, I think no tag this week from Merritt. I think he'll go well. But a player I'm keen on, he bounced back last week after a couple of quiet weeks. Nick Martin. He absolutely killed it last week. He had a massive score. So his highest score of the season, 166 game day squad points. And for anyone out there that hasn't checked time on ground stats, Tom, how much time on ground do you reckon Nick Martin had last week?
Look, I don't know exactly, but watching the game, it seemed like he was getting the ball every 10 seconds that I was watching it. So I'm going to say a lot. Yeah,
well, a lot is right. He didn't come off the ground. 100% game time last week. So
wow.
And that's 2 of his last 4 games he's played 100%. The only 2 games he didn't play 100% were the games where he got a corky against Collingwood and then the following week where he was dealing with that corky. But outside of that, he just doesn't come off the ground. And that's what we love with our fantasy players. Like you normally go, if your player's on 20 points, 10 minutes into the quarter, you go, okay, they're going to have 5, 6, 7 minutes on the bench, not going to score for a bit, right? Nick Martin, you don't have to worry about it. You could just go, well, if he's on 10 points, 15 minutes in the quarter, he's still got another 15 minutes to play, which is fantastic. So Nick Martin, Dogs are an okay matchup, but it's under the roof. I'm really keen on Nick Martin, and he's one of my favourite players this week for sure. So Nick Martin, get him into your squads if you don't have him. Moving over to Sunday. But before we do, if you guys haven't signed up to GameDay Squad yet, then do make sure you head over to GameDaySquad.com.au and sign up. A lot of exciting things going with GameDay Squad. It gets better and better, sort of almost every week, it seems. But every year they just go better and better. There's plenty of other sports, not just AFL. You've got your NRL, you've got your Big Bash when that comes around. IPL, been off for a week. Apparently they're coming back on the weekends. That'll be kicking off again, which is really exciting. Plenty of other good, exciting things coming in, including the AFLW later in the year that we'll do. NBL, heaps of good stuff there. So if you want to sign up, then use the code BAILSDT and you get yourself 3 free packs valued at $21 normally in the market, but you get them absolutely free using the code BAILSDT. It's 27 players to get your squad started and your club started, along with those starter packs that you do get by signing up. So make sure you do. And it's free to play. I know Tom always says as well, that's the best thing about GameDay Squad. It's free to play. You do not have to pay. You can still get in there because starter, you only need bronzes anyway, so you don't need to pay. So, yeah, make sure you go and sign up using the code BAILSDT. Tom, anything I forgot there?
No, nailed it. Yeah, that's right. Starter competitions, completely free, all those bronze cards. So get amongst it if you haven't already, because we focus on more of a round-to-round element. We do have seasonal ranks that you'll hear me and Bales touch on, but every round is a different round and a chance for you to get involved and potentially win some prizes that we give out. So, yeah, if it interests you, definitely sign up, because it's we love fantasy, we love it, and I'm sure you'll love it too.
Yeah, exactly. Get around it. Moving
what are these
over
questions from Jack Main? Do you want to get into these?
Yes, I was going to touch on them in a sec, because we're actually going to touch on a few of these players. So, Jack, we'll touch on a couple of these players literally in this game here. So, Richmond and North Melbourne is the next game. Who would have thought how relevant this fantasy game would be at the start of the year? Richmond, North Melbourne is very relevant. But who are you keen on or not so keen on this game? But I dare say I think we're going to be keen on some players here.
Yeah, let's go keen on. Let's be positive. Let's go for an ex-Swanee, Luke Parker. He's going to play in the midfield in this game, and I think he is about to dominate. It does feel like he's getting a little bit more time in the midfield than Simpkin. Like, it's really hard you sort of want to say there's a good trio of ruse forwards that you want to start, right? We've got Daniels, Simpkin, Parker. But for me, if I had to pick my first ranked one for the round, is going to be going to Luke Parker. He's going to be a pig in the middle. He's going to get plenty of the footy, and I think it's going to translate to a really, really good fantasy game. So Parker's the one I'm going to be starting with, which might be an outside pick compared to the others, because I feel like a lot of more commonly people will want to start Daniels or Simpkin, but I'm going to be a little bit different, go against the grain, and I'm saying Luke Parker's going to be the best of the three, hence why I'm big on him, and he will be in my squad for this week.
Yeah, I like it. Player I'm keen on this game as well. I've got my start of the week, which I'll touch on very later, but player I'm very keen on and could arguably be another start of the week for me, the Big X, one of my favourites, Tristan Sherry. If anyone was worried about him not being back or not, he is well and truly back. So he had that 3-week stretch in GameDay Squad where he went 89, 91, and 80, but since then, the last 4 weeks, 122, 141, 139, and 132. And that's by not filling all the stat lines. Like, some games he's either got a lot of tackles and not a lot of touches. Other games got a lot of touch but not a lot of tackles. I could see this being a game where he gets everything, where he gets a lot of tackles, he gets a lot of touches, and he gets his hit outs. Because he's pretty good for 30+ hit outs a game, right? He's had the only games he didn't go above that were round 2, 3, and 4. And 2 of those games were injury impacted, and the other one was when he got 29, right? So essentially 30. So he's pretty good for that most weeks. And Richmond, we know, is a pretty good matchup. Nank does give up points, and he also scores points. So I like Tristan Sherry in this game, and that's why Darcy Cameron's a fade for us this week. That's why we've got some other players in the rucks that we're not looking at targeting, because I think there are some really good options in the ruck this week. I think there are 3 good options, and it's probably going to be hard to leave one of them out, but we're going to have to. So that's where I sit with that. But Jack has got the questions from these 2 games to answer a couple of these here. So Jack Main is saying, do you like Luke Ryan this round? And how about Tom Green, Matt Kennedy, and Luke Parker? So we've talked about Tom Green. Both big fans of him this week against Freo. Kennedy, if you're lucky enough to have him as a bronze or a silver, really, really like him there. You just mentioned Parker there, but what about Luke Ryan? He plays against GWS. Ooh. So a bit of a tough matchup.
Is a tough matchup. I don't know. Yeah. I think it is a tougher matchup. I would be looking at this if you're going to start, like, let's say you're sold on Luke Ryan. I'd probably be weighing up the conversation. Is it Jordan Clark or is it Luke Ryan? And for me, I actually would argue that Jordan Clark has been the more consistent and better fantasy performer for the season so far. And I know Luke Ryan had a fantastic game, but Jordan Clark had an even better one for the round.
Yeah, Luke Ryan had fantastic. Luke Ryan had 148 game day squad points, and then Jordan Clark, as you said, went better than that and scored. He was at 162. Yep. So they chipped around.
Sorry, go.
I was just going to say they chipped around a lot last week, but that was against Collingwood at Optus. This is against Giants at NG Stadium. Is that a worry for you? Tough matchup and away from home?
Yeah, like the matchup is definitely why. And like you'll see my squad later, but I actually haven't started. I tried to avoid that because of those reasons. But if Freo go back to last season, like they've definitely played a different way this year, and they're not kicking it along the back as much, and they're sort of just trying to dump into their forwards. But I don't know. Maybe they go back to playing that style because last year it was. I was having Luke Ryan in my squad every round almost. I know you were the same. We were big fans of Luke Ryan and everything he was doing. So look, I think I'm going to be avoiding personally, but I can see why you would want to start someone like Luke Ryan with the form off last game, and then also like just a bit of a pod play. Like why not?
Exactly. And then just from this game as well, Jack also said, what about Simpkin and Daniel and even a Grind Myers to play on the bench, or is there a better forward? So Grind Myers, a bit of a maybe. I don't mind him. He's pretty solid, but Port Adelaide at Adelaide Oval, I don't love. I think he has actually been okay against him in the past, but I don't love the matchup. But Josh Simpkin and Caleb Daniel, I think Caleb Daniel's been poor, and Harry Shees was clearly been a sort of a guy that we've started has been poor, and when Shees been back there, Daniel hasn't done as well. But I think Daniel in this game against Richmond can have a better game, and Josh Simpkin as well. You mentioned Luke Parker. I think Josh Simpkin's also another name that you could potentially consider starting in your game day squad as well. That Simpkin's a guy that can just pop out a 130, 140 in game day squad out of nowhere. And this is the sort of game where I think he could actually do something like that. So Josh Simpkin will go later on, but he's currently in my squad as it stands there. So we'll touch on that there. Jack had one more question, then we'll move on to the other one, saying any better options than Jordan Clark without the usual guys looking for a bench option? We'll actually answer that question for you, Jack, very soon, because we're actually going to go through our squads and we can show you which defenders we've got, and maybe that might give you an option or two to maybe plug into your squad. Callum Stone, obviously good old friend Cow, saying, will Drake May make Stephon Diggs a wide receiver 1 this year? But then Fast Break Friend is saying Diggs is out for half the season. So be very interesting
to start. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Move on.
Moving to the second last game, which is Brisbane and Melbourne at the Gabba. Who are you keen on or not so keen on in this game, Tom?
I'm going to answer Jack's question right now. You want a bit of a side name, someone that everyone's not going to be starting.
I know exactly
Jake
who this is.
Bowie. He's going to get a lot of opportunity to score. Brisbane are going to put the pressure on Melbourne this round, and I just see there's going to be a lot of ball in their defence. There's potentially going to be a lot of shots on goals, and the more points there are, the better it's going to be for Bowie, because that's really when he's coming into his element. Even if he's not taking the kick in, he's always trying to be that link-up player off the kick in, and almost that can be better at times because you get the mark and then also either the handball or the kick after. They're really getting it into his hands. We've seen games where he's had 20-plus kicks over his past 4 games 3 times. So he's in some excellent form. I think people think Christian Salem, because of the start of the year that he had, is the only option for Melbourne defenders. But I would actually argue, and I did this last week, and I'm going to do it again, that Jake Bowie is a better fantasy option in my books than Salem for this round, and I think for majority of the season, if things keep going the way it is. So he's not a big name. He's probably not a player that a lot of people are going to target, but he's going to be one of my point of difference players that. And the thing is, he's averaging 115 points. So we're not even talking that big of a point of difference player, like not that out of the realms of in terms of performance in the season he's having so far. But yeah, he's got some huge upside, and in a matchup where he could have a lot of opportunity to score, I think it's the green light for him. Get him in the squad.
Yeah, I like it. And I think he's probably leading their best and fairest, to be honest. Obviously, Gorney's going to be near there, but I think Jake Bowie's been... I think Bowie's actually been their best player all year. I think consistency-wise, I think Gorn had a slow start to the year after round 1, but Bowie's been one of their best players. So, yep, Jake Bowie, I like him as an option. My player I'm really keen on in this game, Josh Dunkley. I don't know if you know this about Josh Dunkley, Tom, besides him being an absolute gun of a fantasy player. Melbourne, he absolutely loves playing Melbourne in his career. They are not by far, but they are his favourite fantasy team to score against. Don't know game day squad averages, but in terms of AFL fantasy, His career average of 8 games against them, 120.9, which that would translate to over 130 game day squad points because of the kick points, right? So an career average of over 130 from 8 games against them is insane. And last year against Melbourne, when he played them, 175 game day squad points he scored, and he did the triple double. He had 32 touches, 12 marks, 10 tackles that game. So he is a gun. This is a great matchup, Melbourne, and he also loves playing Melbourne. So if you want a recipe for success, that's it there. Great matchup. Loves playing him, and it's at home as well for Brisbane. Yeah, just get him into your squad this week. Yep, exactly. Loves playing the Gabba as well. So averages 102.6 from 28 games in fantasy. So that'd be near 110, 115. So that's pretty good considering there've been some lower scores there. But get him into your squads this week for sure. Moving to the final game, then we're getting into our lock and fade of the week. But it is West Coast and St Kilda. So who are you keen on or not so keen on this game? I hope you don't take my guy here because I'm actually keen on someone here. So you go, and then I hope you don't take it.
Okay. Just with Jack's response, say I can't get Bowie. If you want to start Bowie this round, I have a spare for you. So list up a card that you're willing to give away, trade for Bowie, and I'll submit the trade. Just let me know what your coach name is. So we'll start with that because I've got to get you a Bowie after I've given him big raps.
There you go, Jack. Yeah, so Jack, just put your club name in there, and Tom will give you the Jake Bowie. So there you go. Cool. But yeah, who are you keen on, not so keen on for this game? And I hope you don't pick a West Coast player here.
I was going to, which I started him last round. I don't have his bronze, so I actually can't start him, but I won't. I'll leave him for you because it's very good why you're going to mention it. I'm going to go with who could be the highest scoring player in all of fantasy for this week. Could be Rowan Marshall. Rowan Marshall
like it.
Could go nuts this round. And of course, not to pick on West Coast all the time with the rucks, but it is just such a good matchup. They really just don't have anyone that's going to be able to run with, jump with, compete with Rowan Marshall over this game. And just as the game goes on, Rowan Marshall is a very dynamic ruck. He doesn't really put too much scoreboard pressure on, but honestly, we don't need him to. He's going to have the opportunity to just dominate in terms of getting his hands on the ball and also having like maybe 40 hit-outs, which is just another bonus, extra points on top. So he's my big start of the round. I actually realized that I've sent you the wrong screenshot because I didn't even have him in, but he's my number one player, and he's actually my start of the round for sure. Like, this is the one player when I'm just building my squad for this week.
Send your photo through to me now. I can chuck it up on the screen at the end. So if you send me through your photo, beautiful. I can put up your updated one. So
say less.
But yeah, Rowan Marshall, he's been slow to start the year, but I think he's starting to get back to a bit of form. So 3 tons on the trot in GameDay Squad, including over 130 last week as well. So he's in some form, and I reckon that he's going to put up a pretty good score this week. So he is someone that I've got in my squad for sure. And West Coast are by far the number one team for rucks, and we saw what Max Gawn did to West Coast the other week. Rowan Marshall could do something maybe not as big as one like whatever Gawn got, like 180 or whatever he scored, but it could be sort of upwards of 130, 140 in GameDay Squad. So I really like Rowan Marshall this week, but someone that I'm very, very keen on in this game. So one of my boys in a lot of fantasy formats and probably one of the saving graces in AFL Fantasy, but he's also been someone I've started for a few weeks now in GameDay Squad, and that is Ryan Marrick. He has been absolutely fantastic in GameDay Squad. He has only had one score below 88 this season, and that was in a game where he was the starting sub, and he scored 36 and a quarter. So even that is saying it was pretty good, right? But his last few games, though, has been where it started to get going. 129, 110. And guess who he plays this week? He plays St Kilda, who we know love giving up points. They're the third easiest matchup there, but we know St Kilda give up points. He's taken all the kick-ins essentially as well. McGovern sounds like might back this week, but it didn't matter because that's where he had his season high score on when McGovern played, but he got injured mid-game. So I think Ryan
Yep.
Marrick, great start this week. I think this is actually going to be a game where a lot of people are going to have a lot of players. So, like, you're going to have, like, your Jack Sinclairs and your Nasai Wanganeen Miller in defence. Some people might be going for a Jack Steele in midfield. Obviously, we've all got Jack McRae, and he's going to be, again, locked in there. You mentioned Ryan Marshall. So, a few players here that are going to be quite prominent in Game Day Squad. So, for sure, there. Jack putting his team name there as well there for you, Tom.
I can't see his trade. Put up a trade for the players you want, mate, and I can get them over for you. But yeah, just ask for the bronze version. So my club isn't too deep, but I can definitely sort you out for some bronzies.
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. Well, we'll go through our squads and how they are shaping up. So I'm just
what about your lock of the round?
Actually, no, we will go through the squad. We will go through locks and fades the week. So just for people that just missed it just before, who is your of the
Rowan Marshall? Get excited, get keen in starter, get him in there. I just feel like when I looked at the round, my squad, who I can start, that was like the first name that popped into my head. I'm like, not only is he going to be good, but he could be the highest scoring player. So that's why I'm so big on him. Got to get him in. Yeah. What about you, mate?
My lock of the round is going to be Harry Sheezel against Richmond. So I did say that someone for that game was going to be there, and it's probably a bit silly because everyone's got Harry Sheezel in their squad, but against Richmond this week, I just think this could be a massive score. And he's obviously playing off half-back. He's played the half-back role for now 3 weeks in a row. 118, 157, and 123 in Game Day Squad. And that 118 was against Port Adelaide at Adelaide Oval, who are already a tough matchup as it is. But at Adelaide Oval makes it even tougher. And Powpep was paying some attention to him in that game. So the fact he still went 118 in that, I think he's a great target here. And Brisbane were a tougher matchup, and he still managed a 123. So I think he's a very, very good option. Your fade of the week?
Oh man, it's tough. I haven't really thought about who did I start. I've dropped a defender. Let me remember who it is, because that'll definitely be the one.
Or is it maybe Dylan Moore, maybe, who you mentioned before?
It's actually John Noble. I feel like I've been riding this Noble train for a little bit, and the Noble train was great when it was going. I loved being on it, and we saw performances of 126, 138, and 133, and started with confidence, and he went 103. And then I'm like, you know what? Give him a chance. He's been playing really well in other matchups. He went 108. Sort of just not trending in the right direction for me. And as you just mentioned, like, there's a lot of good defenders you can get in this round, a lot of pod plays. We've spoken about Bowie. We've spoken about the Saints pairing. There's Clark, who's coming off his best performance for the year. There's Sheezel, who's playing his best footy. Like, it's a tough line group to crack into right now. And for me, I just look at that. I just look at the matchup, and I'm just not, like, real keen on it. So I'm going to fade him for the round, although I have been starting him the past couple of weeks. So it hurts a little, but I'm sorry, Johnny Noble.
Yeah. Sorry, John. My fade of the week as well. I mentioned him before as well, but Caleb Sarong is my fade of the week there. So not only has he not been getting it done for coaches this season, but he's also coming up against GWS, who are one of the matchups I just steer clear of. They're one of the hardest matchups going around in terms of not only are they the hardest matchup or equal hardest matchup for mids, but in terms of overall sort of giving up points. It's quite interesting that they're the third highest, but mids just don't score. And that's because of Toby Bedford, who will go to Caleb Sarong this week. So for me, I am not going anywhere near Caleb Sarong this week. And I'm probably not going near Caleb Sarong, actually, until I see something, because he just hasn't been getting it done. He had 33 touches the other week in Game Day Squad, and I believe he only scored like a 90, which if you look at like your Zach Merritts or your Jordan Dawson's or whatever, if they're getting 30 touches, you better believe they're going 140 plus. Like, it's just happening. So the week that we had 26 handballs, he scored 82 in Game Day Squad. That's worse. 82, like, unbelievable. So I'm not keen on Kaz Sarong. He's only averaging 103 for the year, and he's had a high score of 138. He had that 2 week stretch in rounds. What's that? Rounds 3, 4, 5, where he went over 120 in 3 weeks, but then hasn't done it since. So for me, he is not someone I'm going to be starting. Jack said trades up now. Do any of you have a spare Ryan Marrick? Sorry, mate, I don't. I've only got the two of them, and I use them both in Classic and Starter. And because I'm high up, obviously I can't unfortunately trade them. So sorry, mate. He is one player that people are trying to get. So if anyone out there does have a Ryan, someone's got a Ryan Marrick out there and wants to trade, you're going to get a lot of offers because people are looking to bring Ryan Marrick in. So, and then Danny said, why is Caleb Daniels so bad now? It's because of Harry Sheezel. Sheezel being back there means that Caleb Daniels not the main guy back there anymore. Even Riley Hardiman's even having his little bit of ball back there. So Daniels just sort of the second fiddle and whatever. And if it wasn't for his kick-ins, he'd be doing even worse. So, I'm not as comfortable with him, but maybe this week he's got Richmond, so maybe he goes okay. All right, moving over to our squads as we wrap up the show, and we'll be showing you guys who we're going to be starting in our game day squads for round 10. So we'll start off with Tom's squad to get things started here. So just popping up on the screen right about now is Tom's squad for round 10. So Tom, want to run us through it?
Yeah, absolutely. Jack, just by the way, trade is done. And as you can see, I'm not starting a marriage because I don't have a bronze marriage. I'm one of these people trying to run around currently and get one in my hands. So I wish I could help you out a little more in that department, but I'm unfortunately not going to be starting him either. So we're in this together. Spoke about Luke Parker before. I feel like he's going to be one of the better Kangas. He's in one of the best matchups. He's playing in the midfield. He's going to be great. Brian Myers, I know that conversation sort of came up before. Bit of a pod. I'm not sold on it yet. I'm going to see lineups and see everything come out. But overall, I think he's a pretty safe play. And if you just want someone that's going to come in and score about the 110 or 100, he's your guy for it. The ruck combo, you said the Big X. I said Marshall. I agree with you, man. I think they could be two of the highest scoring players for the round. I'm super keen on it. Tom Green, he's back.
Hang on, just touch on the rucks. This is probably the first pod we've had in a good while. We haven't talked about Max Gawn at all. Like, Max Gawn hasn't been mentioned. He's got, obviously, I think he's a fine play, just for those, because I know there'll be people out there going, where's Max Gawn? And we didn't mention him. Big O, I read today that Big O is sort of might not play this week. He's been dealing with some soreness and it's been ongoing. So that's something to watch. So I think Gawney will get there. It's just so hard, though, when Marshall and Cherry are up against Eagles and Richmond, respectively. So, but yeah, if you want to start Gawn, though, to be different, maybe we're being different. That's going to be interesting to see. But you can only pick two.
I don't think Gawn's a bad play. Just hasn't sort of come up in conversation of being like the play of the game for me, or either
or fade. Yeah, he's just a guy that's got a solid matchup. If you want to play him, then go ahead.
For sure. Midfield, I'm going big on that Collingwood Crows game. I'm going both Dawson, Dacos. I think they're going to play really well. Bont's just been fantastic. He's on cruise control currently, and he's just still churning out massive numbers. So, yeah, he's been fantastic. Connor Rozee, I completely agree. I had Butters in last round. I think this is a Rozee game, and we're going to see him dominate off that half back. Dunks, you also touched on him. So a lot of the players you said are going to play good, I've got in. So I'm doing something righty, Bales, with your ranking. I'm going the Saints pairing down back, though. Wanganeen Miller, Jack Sinclair, fantastic matchup. Zorko just really can't fade. Whitfield, same thing. Nick Martin's back in for me. I've been loving the form that he's been in. He's been in and out of my squad, but again, he's back in for the round. In this one, Harry Sheezel's back to be his halfback role, and Bowie's probably my pod play of the round there in defense. And yeah, that's pretty much the squad. Very excited for round 10. Hopefully, I can sort of crack into the top 20. It's been a little bit since that's happened. That's my goal. Just get top 20. That'd be fantastic. If not, we'll keep building. We'll keep trying to get there.
Yeah, exactly. And for those playing a lot at home as well, the bench players do count to your point scoring. But it is interesting that I think Myers on the bench is fine, but Cherry, Dawson, and Sheezel is very interesting to be on the bench. I'm offended by the Dawson being on the bench as well. But hey, when you got Rozee, Bont, Dacos, Dunkley, Green, one of those players has got to be on the bench. So,
I'll
that's
change
what
it
happens.
for you. You're right. You're right. He shouldn't be there. I'll change it for you.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know about you, but I always order them in average order. That's how I normally go about things on GameDay Squad. I know people got their little nuances and stuff like that. Moving over to my squad for the round here. So we've got a lot of similar players there. So
same midfield.
The defense is pretty much the same. So we've both got Whitfield, Zorko, Nasai, Sheezel, Sinclair, and Martin. I've just gone for Lockie Ash instead of Jake Bowie. I just like the Freo matchup at home a little bit more, but I think both are solid plays there. I think there's pretty common 6 at the moment moving forward in Whitfield, Zorko, Nasai, Sinclair, Sheezel, and Martin. I think that are the guys probably where you can go different. So I've gone Ash, you've gone Bowie. Some people might go for someone different. So, but they're the 7 I've got. Midfield, Dawson, Merritt, Dunkley, Bont, Rozee, and Dacos. I've gone for Merritt instead of Tom Green, which and I might even go instead of day cost, maybe I'll go for a Tom Green set. But at the moment, that's what I'm sitting with. Cherry Marshall, as we say, got those two locked in there. And then, as you can see, that I do have Ryan Marrick, which I'm really happy about. But I don't have Matt Kennedy, which I wish I had a third Ryan Marrick, because I'd be able to go out there and be able to probably swap a Marrick for a Kennedy. But unfortunately, I've got the two and I need both. But yeah, Marrick is on the bench there, along with Smith or Baz, McRae, Rankin, Horn Francis. I've got Josh Simpkin there as well. Think you might have a seen squad. I've got Luke Jackson pending the naming of Darcy or not. If Darcy's not there, Jackson will be starting for me this week. So that is how we're running with the squad this week. But that'll be it for us for today for the show. Tom, where can the people find you across the socials, and final thoughts?
For sure. If you want to find me, talk any fantasy footy, etc., at TommyGDS on X, or come over to the GameDay Squad Discord. Heaps of people talking there about trades, everything. I'm always active in there, helping everyone out. So if you do need any support, Discord's a good place, or email us at contact@gamedaysquad.com.au. Or third option, just message any of the social accounts, just the official GameDay Squad ones. I'm sure you'll be able to find the links for that. But yeah, my final comments is the best of luck in round 10. It's round to round on GameDay Squad, so don't worry. You can have a bad start to the year like me. You can brush it off. It's all good, and we can keep moving forward. And that's what we're going to do, and hopefully some better results. So let's go. Get excited. How about you, Bales? Where can everyone find you? And all the good things you do?
People can find me at BAILSDT across the socials, and you can find us at AFL Fantasy Fans. And final thoughts, there is I probably said it most weeks, but yeah, just keep an eye on, if you can. Obviously, people have got things they've got to do and everything, but there were some late changes, like maybe Jaiden Short might have been affecting for your GameDay Squad coaches with a decent matchup there. At being West Coast at the MCG, maybe that was a bit of a pod. So if you missed that, then you sort of had that locked in. So maybe just keep an eye on, as I said, follow at AFL Sub so you don't miss any late changes or anything. Because you don't have to open your phone. All you got to do is it'll come up on your phone, and if it's not on Do Not Disturb or anything, you get notification there, and you can see who the subs or late changes or anything are. So just probably keep on track of that, yeah, have a good round. And best thing about GameDay Squad is I'm struggling for AFL Fantasy at the moment on other formats. But GameDay Squad, you can refresh every week because it's a clean slate. Literally, it is, you wipe the slate clean even after a bad week, and then you go again, and hopefully you can have a good week. So good luck to everyone out there this week. Hope you guys enjoy the footy. Yeah, we'll catch you guys same time, same place next week. Enjoy the footy. Catch you guys next week. Thanks, everyone. See ya.